Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly source of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. My name is Matt.
And it's Heather.
And it's Derek.
And we are operating shorthanded this week. Our dear friend Alex is out of commission with a little case of the Canadian flu, so we hope that he's back in time for our next stream on Tuesday and hope to see him again soon. You're tuning in now for episode 8 of the BTW pod, and as always, want to welcome in all new and returning friends to the show. Huge thank you to everyone who has joined us so far. Dropped a follow and left a review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. As always, we have a loaded show for you this week, starting off with some Kraken news. We go into our usual game recaps, check in down on Coachella Valley, and we have our weekly discussion around the sound table. One thing that we want to thank folks for is checking out the Beneath the Waves store. We had a Black Friday sale last week, and our next sale, coming up is from December 2nd to the 8th, and is a 25% off sale. It's the last sale of the year, so if you have that Brandon Montour fan in your family that you think just needs a Monty Mania piece of gear, head up the store, bit.ly/BTW store. The link is also in the show notes. You can get yourself some gear. Gang, we're looking really dejected on our Zoom call right now. I don't think we're doing super well with how the Kraken have been going, but let's start off with some Kraken news first. Heather, where are we standing at with some things we've talked about recently?
Yeah, so I can't remember if we talked about how Coachella has been sending players up and down, but I thought I would start there because it's kind of been interesting. You know, we had Ben Myers up for a while, and he has been sent back down to Coachella. We called Ryan Winterton back up, which delighted me, of course, and he's been playing well. And we also recently called Mitchell Stevens up, and Mitchell Stevens is actually 27 years old. He has a lot of NHL experience, so it's actually a good call up, especially when we have Eberle out, but also we had an illness this week we'll talk about. But on top of that, you know, Sprong was scratched recently, and he actually didn't play a ton of minutes the game before that. So I think they're trying to slot some of the new guys in and see how they're going to sort of bring some different energy because the team really needs it. I wanted to talk a little bit about injuries too before we move off of news. So Vince Dunn is off LTIR as of November 30th, and he actually has played. So that's super exciting. We're glad to have Vince Dunn back. Always a little bit of an adjustment when a player comes back into the lineup, but it's kind of a breath of fresh air to see him out there. And lastly, Jordan Eberle, who had successful pelvis surgery, is on LTIR, and that's retroactive to November 14th.
Awesome. Well, like you said, it's really exciting to see some fresh faces coming in and some familiar faces coming back. And as I kind of alluded to before the news, we're not feeling so hot. We're not looking so hot, and it's not a case of the flu like Alex is down with. We have a case of, I don't know, Krakenitis or something like that. I don't know what we want to call it, but it's not looking good. What's our vibe check feeling like right now, gang? Derek, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty awful, Matt. I wish I had the flu. I wish I was in a coma right now. I wish that I could wake up I wish I could be Rip Van Winkle, but for the Kraken, and just go to sleep for 10 years and come back once the team is good. That's how I feel right now. Absolutely unacceptable play. We have a string of 3 awful games that we're going to cover today, but pretty much everything going wrong for the Seattle Kraken to end the month of November, which is a crucial time in terms of getting those playoff odds up, as we've been mentioning in our previous pods. But yeah, nothing really good going on for the Kraken here. We have some good Firebird stuff, I guess, but yeah, nothing good for the Kraken.
Heather, how you feeling?
Vibes are not good. Let's start there. Like, they're not good for us. They're not good for fans. They're not good for those going to the games. They're not good for the team. Like, vibes are just not good. But I'm finding it interesting that there are some players that are rising a little bit to the occasion for the most part, more than others. And I know that sounds maybe wild because we're not seeing great play, but I want to point out some of these individuals. The Coachella Valley Firebird crew. Shane Wright, Riker Evans, Ty Cartier, Joey Decord, Ryan Winterton. These players have played in Coachella, and they are actually some of the best players on the ice currently. Maybe because they're most familiar with Coach Bylsma and Coach Campbell's coaching style. Maybe they've just not yet forgotten that it's pretty incredible to be playing in the NHL. Maybe they're remembering that their spot has to be earned. I'm just throwing that out there as something to maybe ponder as I don't know. I kind of feel like we're seeing some apathy that we saw last season showing up again, especially when we look at that Ducks game that we're going to talk about. I just feel like these younger players are coming in and they're making a difference. And I like to see that. I also think the new guys, Brandon Montour, Chandler Stevenson, they're also making a difference. And if you take this season sort of as just a capsule of sorts, just this season alone, you can't deny the difference they're making. And I know a lot of money, long time, but for this season alone, I think they're living up to their expectations. And it's kind of the production that we want from players who are being paid the big bucks like they are. And I know we went off on Maddie last week, but I'm putting those in a similar place just because this is the production we want to see. And overall, they got to figure this out, right? It's obviously a personnel issue and not a coaching issue because we switched out coaches. And we've said it a bunch. There's only so much the coaches can do with the talent that's in front of them. And I'm just super bothered by late pushes that are too late. Like, where was that all game? Where's the fight and sticking up for each other, which we'll talk about? Like, we just got an abysmal 2 points from a string of games where we really should have gotten 8. And it's really hard to find an upside at this point. Like, I just wanted them to do well in November, especially these last 4 games. And now I don't know where the future lies. I'm not feeling good. And I'm really not feeling good about playoffs.
I think my feelings are summed up best in the office quote of saying, "You make it really hard to love you sometimes." And that's how it's feeling with this team. Going into games that we should absolutely just rinse this team and run away with 8 points and boost up our odds for the playoffs. And we just get absolutely kicked down the road in just horrible fashion. I like your point about the young Coachella guys coming up. I mean, Ryan Winterton, we were always psyched when he comes up, and he seemed to do a lot better in this call up than he did in his last one. I don't know if that's just he had some jitters that first time coming through, or he just needed some time to acclimatize, but he certainly looks a lot more comfortable. I said last week in our Thanksgiving bit that I was really happy for Ron Francis's checkbook because I do still see a lot of value in Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson, like you had said. I think it sucked to not have Stevie in that last San Jose game when he was out sick, which we'll talk about later, because I think he's a pretty valuable asset there. And, you know, you can bring in Stevens, but taking 2 letters off the last name isn't making the same player. So just a happy coincidence there, I think. But trying to find even the slimmest, slightest of silver linings in this gong show there. We'll say gong show because I wanted to say more colorful things, but I don't want to put the explicit tag on our Spotify episode. We'll see. Like, you never know. We absolutely should not do well in these next couple weeks as we tour down the East Coast and play really tough teams. But maybe something wild happens and we Freaky Friday ourselves into a good team and score some points that we have no business scoring.
Yeah, they could surprise us. I hope they do.
I hope they do. I hope we have nothing but 12-2 games.
I really don't see it happening here.
Damn it,
And
Derek! Come on.
I really don't. Hold
Get
on.
on
Just 1
board,
second.
Derek.
I really don't see it happening here. And I just want to say really quick, this solidifies Ron Francis's fate. These last 3 games, they solidify his fate. This season looks to be an L of a season, and with this L of a season, he already burned up all of his get out of jail free cards with Hackstall and crew. He can't blame Bylsma this year, like Heather said. I just wanted to say that really quick. Yeah. So I have some stats that I want to go over. Some of them are irrelevant, but hey, you know, we're just talking about whatever today. So the Kraken are 20th in shooting percentage. Okay, they're 26th in save percentage. They have 19% playoff Odds, not great. I said if they were below 30 by the end of November, I was giving up. It is December 1st, and they are 19%, so I'm giving up. Our Money Puck power rank, though, is pretty weird. It's 18th, so it would be two places out of playoffs. Money Puck is tripping, in my opinion. And then we have 84.4 projected points, which is 8.4 more than Alex projected. So get
That's
wrecked,
all I care
Alex.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Honestly.
listening to the pod, Alex, get wrecked. Not here to defend himself. Also, this is the biggest one that I found right before the pod. The Kraken are actually first in power play time percentage, with like 61%. It's like 5 to 10 more than the people in second through fifth. It's pretty wild, how little they do with that power play time. But yeah, we do lead in PP time percentage, so pretty interesting.
Well, let's take our very broad vibes and let's roll into a recap of the games from the last week. We started off in game 23, the second of a back-to-back with the Anaheim Ducks, and this game was a 5-2 loss. The Kraken were coming off a 3-2 win over the Ducks just 2 days earlier, so the vibes are pretty high. We felt good rolling into the back half of this California trip, and it did not go so hot. Frank Vetrano opened the scoring at 8:23 into the first period by knocking a loose spinning puck past Joey Decord. And then just 4 minutes later, the Ducks extended their lead off a Brett Leeson shot from the left circle that just snuck under Joey's arm. The Kraken, fortunately, finally started to respond at the end of the first period when Ellie Tolvanen capitalized on a passing play off of Yanni Gord, getting a wrist shot just past Gibson's blocker. Midway through the second, good old Oliver Bjorkstrand tied the game up, sending a one-timer from Shane Wright. Shane Wright, hashtag Heather was right. Nice to see him and that whole line executing and scoring those two goals. However, the Ducks started to pull away in the second period with Killorn putting a puck in after Adam Larson turned it over to Trevor Zegras. And then Cutter Gauthier scored on the power play in the last minute of the period. Finally, Trevor Zegras put the merciful last nail in the coffin with the final goal of the game at the 13:55 mark of the third period. This was an excellent game by the Ducks goaltender John Gibson. We have to give him some props. He saved 42 shots in that game. So absolutely great showing there. And this was the first time, unfortunately, of the season that Joey allowed more than 4 goals in a game. So totally polar opposite experiences on both sides of the goalies there. And I think the biggest talking point to come out of Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever you want to call it, after this game was lots of remarks on the extreme lack of physicality in this game against the Ducks. The most obvious example of this was when Ty Cartier, uh, in the game prior, hit Leo Carlson kind of a little bit late, some people were claiming, and he fell down and went into the post and was out for the game. So the Ducks were obviously still very upset about this, and there was lots of scrappy moments after the whistles. Tempers were constantly flaring. And then with 5 minutes left in the third period, Jansen Harkins hit Ty Cartier with a cross check to the lower back, which knocked him to the ice. And they did not stop there, as while he was down, Ross Johnston threw several punches to the head of Cartier, who was unable to defend himself. And there was only one person to step up to help out Ty Cartier. And who was that, Heather?
It was Shane Wright.
And the big question going on Twitter and our group chat and everything is just where is the physicality and backup for your team? Because it seemed to be non-existent.
It clearly wasn't there. Maybe it was stuck down in Coachella. They hadn't sent it up yet with Shane Wright or whatever. I don't know. They only sent Shane Wright. They didn't send the rest of the physicality. It's still waiting down there. Not really sure, but what I do know is that the Ducks fans be tripping online on the Twitter, on the Blue Sky, etc. Okay, exactly what you said, Matt. Once he was defenseless, Johnston was wailing on him, and that's just bush league stuff. Like that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable. It doesn't matter what Cartier did. Cartier could have had the cheapest hit in the world that game. It wasn't even that game. The hit in question wasn't even this game. And that's just against every single that's against like every moral or rule in like any sort of fighting. Especially in fighting in hockey. Once someone's down, you don't just wail on them while they're defenseless. That's classless. And defending that or encouraging that, if you're a Ducks fan, is also classless. That was ridiculous to see online. The other thing I wanted to to touch on here, and both of these games that we're talking, or all three of these games that we're talking about today, were a part of like these little 2-game series. And I think it would be really cool to have more of these like series in the middle of the regular season, sort of like baseball, because we do start to see like these like tensions grow like game to the next game. Because Cartier did that thing in game one against whoever that he hit, some irrelevant bum that he hit into the post or whatever. I forgot his name. But that happened in the first game, and then tensions boiled over to the second game. If the Ducks just fly away to Florida or something for their next game, we don't see what we saw in the second game. Obviously, it was bad, but it would be entertaining to see more tensions like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point to have those like mini series. Like the AHL does a lot of those sort of like you'll play the same team 2 times, maybe even back to back. The only thing I didn't like was we were in Anaheim and then back and then in LA and then back. Like I didn't like that, but if they could get it together a little bit better schedule wise, that would be pretty cool. The other thing I didn't like in this game is just going back to just the physicality of it. So aside from the hit on Cartier that only Shane Wright stood up for, a player on the Duck side took out Joey's legs at one point, just like completely ran him over. There was no call, and then there was also no response from the team either. So I don't get where the grit and the fight is. Like, are the vibes just so bad that they're just indifferent? I don't understand it. Like, where is that coming from? I think turnovers were a big problem in the Anaheim game too. If I'm remembering right, I think that 3 of the Ducks goals came from bad turnovers in the Kraken's own zone. I think I'm right on that, 2 or 3 of them. So just not good at all. But I do love the line that Shane Wright is on. Tolvi, Bjorkstrand, and Shane. I just feel like they're building some good chemistry there. So I think that line, if they just continue to build chemistry and confidence, that's going to help add them like to the spicy line as the difference maker line. So we're kind of already seeing that, but I hope to see just some more of that too, because I really like that line together. And again, just emphasizing it was a struggle for Joey, and I worry that we're burning him out a little bit. I don't know what the answer is here, but I do worry a little bit that that was the first time we saw some cracks in his armor, so to speak. Like he has been helping them win by just bailing them out a lot of times, and he just wasn't really able to do that this game. So I think he needed a break, which he did get in the next game versus San Jose, which was an 8-5 loss. And this was just a barn burner, I suppose. I'm going to leave Gru talk to Derek, so I'm going to move on to just the recap of the game and let him go. But the Sharks scored first, just a little over 2 minutes into the game. It was a low to high pass by Liljegren. Shane Wright and Ellie Tolvanen caused a turnover in the Shark zone, and that set up Oliver Bjorkstrand to tie it up just 56 seconds later. So love that. Response goal, fantastic. Then Costin circled the back of the net and caught both the defense and Gru off guard to retake the lead in the dying seconds of a Shark power play. I thought we were making it out of that one, and then it was like the last few seconds and they scored. Shane Wright, though, once again, we're going to talk about him because I'm so excited for his play. That's my bright spot in all of this. But he ended the no-score power play streak. He and Schwartz were both net front, and he was able to catch a bounce off the post to redirect it into the net, and that tied the game. So super exciting for 2 things, for Shane Wright and also just for getting a power play goal. Like, my goodness, it had been a month at least. Then after that, there was great hustle by Chandler Stevenson to win a faceoff, and he kind of just like pushed the puck straight to the crease to beat Vanacek. And notable here too was Ryan Winterton, Jaden Schwartz. They just absolutely were outworking and holding off the Sharks defenders, and then that left Stevie clear to just get the puck over to the net. So really good work all around on that line. And just pointing out Ryan Winterton really slotting in nicely in this game and really looked a lot more confident. And I think part of that is due to it wasn't a lot of pressure put on him to perform since somebody was sitting. Like, he actually could come in and play. Will Smith had a really soft goal that just went past Gru, and that tied the game back up 3-3. And then during the next Kraken power play, there was a perfect pass from Stevie, which set up Shane's one-timer. And again, we took the lead 4-3. This game was crazy. Gru couldn't track the puck being shot by Wallman through a bunch of players, and the game was then tied at 4-4. And the Sharks made it 5-4 with a goal that Gru really should have stopped. The next goal by the Sharks was a bad neutral zone turnover by the Kraken. That made it 6-4. But thank goodness for that spicy line I mentioned. They just never gave up. They really, John Forsland always says it's hack and whack time. And that's exactly what this was. The puck finally got clear around the back of the net, and there was a pass to Gord. He just hammered it to the back of the net. The Kraken were within one. So we went into the third down 6-5. So still in this thing. Insane amount of goals, but still in this thing. But the Sharks scored goal number 7 as it just bounced off Gru's glove. Not sure why he couldn't grab that one. This one to me blew my mind because he literally had it in his hand. It's like when you're watching baseball and it like bounces out of their glove. It was kind of like that. And then Wallman hit the empty net to make the score 8-5. So really tough game. I am still reeling a little bit from it, but bright spot, like I said, 2 points per game for Shane Wright since coming back into the lineup. 3 goals and 3 assists in the last 3 games. And he had 2 power play goals this game. So that's my bright spot. I'll let you two talk about the rest of it.
Well, I'm definitely on board for continuing the hashtag Heather is right movement. We talked last week about how mature he was in the time that he was sent up to the press box and how he dealt with it and how he came back and is actually responding. So that's really awesome to see. And my other highlight is just seeing in our notes and watching highlights and stuff like that of just perfect pass from Stevenson. Because in my books, he continues being the assist king, just really knowing where he is at all times and where people are around him, despite only being, what, 24 games in deep with this team so far. And things seem to be starting to click there. So that's really good for me. That I think the worst I felt with this game was that 7th goal from the Sharks. I can't remember what Sharks player it was. It was some like young kid. It was his first NHL goal ever, and he just like wristed it from the blue line, and it went off of Gru's glove. And I mean, I'm sure in reality it's super fast, and I would never see it, but it looks like when I'm playing catch with my 3-year-old nephew and throw him a baseball, and he can't catch it because he just doesn't have that coordination at 3 years old. And side note, my 3-year-old nephew doesn't get paid $5 million a year. So a little bit of a difference there. He gets a granola bar if he doesn't throw a tantrum during our little game. I was not able to watch this game because it was not Canadian Thanksgiving on that Friday and Black Friday. So I was still at work and I had my phone off to the side and it'd be like buzz, I'd look over, goal Sharks, buzz, look over, goal Sharks. And I'm just like, it made my day at work even longer. And I am very glad and fortunate that I didn't actually sit through and have to be subjected to that game, even though we scored 5 goals. So that's always exciting. But scoring 5 goals and still losing is just absurd.
Yeah, you said it. And first of all, big ups to Shane Wright. Second of all, big ups to Channy Steves. Channy Steves, we're bringing it back for today's pod.
No, we're
and
not. Never Channy
yeah,
Steves.
and big ups to Chandler Stevenson. Um, yeah, Matt, you were talking about Cardwell's goal, the 7th goal, and it was 50 feet away, and yeah, it had like a 2 or 3% chance of going in, as did every other goal except for 2 of them. So Gru really should have had all of them, except for maybe 2, and he had 2 expected goals against. But I just really wanted to say this game was not lost because of bad offense. It wasn't lost because of bad defense, not even close. We only allowed 2.04 expected goals against from the Sharks. Allowing 2 or under against an NHL team is really, really, really good. That's a rare number to see. We got 3.77 expected goals for, and we ended up posting 5. So not the offense's fault. It was not even close to being the defense's fault. Let's quit with that narrative. I've seen it everywhere. I'm sorry. I love Grubauer. Grubauer is like my favorite player in the entire NHL, but we need to stop acting like this is not 100 million, billion, bajillion, 100% his fault. This game was absolutely his fault from start to finish. Every single shot ended up going in. It was insane. It was comical how he just allowed goals in so many different ways, but made it look horrible every single time, just the same. He needs conditioning or something, and I think a massive contributing factor is that he hasn't been playing. Like he's had like 2 games in the last month, just because the cord's been lights out, but when you neglect your backup goalie like that, and he's 33 years old, and he's already not the greatest. Something like this is probably bound to happen. But let's stop. Let's quit with the whole it's not 100% Philly Grewsteak's fault here, okay? Because it 1,000,000% is. So he allowed 7 goals, and only had 2 expected goals against. So he allowed 5 goals over expected. We had an 83% deserve to win meter. That's insanely high on Money Puck. Grubauer completely sold this one, and it pains me to say that, but it's true. So let's accept that.
Yeah, let's flash back to the Beneath the Waves time capsule when Derek's bold take was that Phillip Grubauer would come out as the number one undisputed goaltender for the Seattle Kraken. How's that holding up a quarter of the way through the season?
It's not holding up very well. When you asked me how it was holding up, I got imagery of like me holding an umbrella in like a category 5 hurricane. Like that's how, as well as this holding up. So not very good. Um, but yeah, I'm not happy, but I will eat my words. I'm an objective person. But yeah, it pains me to see Gru going down like this.
Do you think it is partly because he's not used to being the backup goalie? Like he just is not used to the fewer games. Like I think he's somebody that does need the. It's not an excuse, but I do think he's somebody that needs more consistent games in order to really hone his like skill and like get into a groove almost.
Yeah, I would need to pull up his like stat sheet right now on like NHL.com, but I do know that he's never really thrived on like a super big game load. That was kind of a new thing when he came to Seattle, and people are actually saying that like because of the big workload, he wasn't doing good. So now it's like you have a big workload, you're not doing good. You have a small workload, you're not doing good. You're just not doing good.
It's not good.
And he's
Got it.
33 as Phil Bezinson. Sorry, Phil. Don't know how to pronounce your last name. Never met you in person, but as he said on Twitter, he's 33, so aging out. Probably not good. Could be the end. Could not be recovering. He's not a spring chicken. Really just sad, but it'll be nice to see him take his $6 million a year, Matt, not five, $6 million
Oh,
a
pardon
year.
me.
Yeah, $6 million a year, and get on a horse, ride that thing off into the sunset. Don't get injured by any tree branches or whatever like last time, and just have a good life.
Okay,
Also, we really like Philip Grubauer just as a person, like just
Yes.
throwing that out there because I
Million
don't want,
percent.
I don't want this to be a Maddie situation where we have to come back and be like, we love Maddie. We also love Philip Grubauer. Like, I think he's fantastic. I love watching him and the horses and everything. Like, I think he's great. He's actually really super funny. He's great.
He's like the quintessential like guy that I would want to be the best in the league just because of who
Mhm.
he is. But he's just a guy at this point, to be honest. But what's up,
just a
Matt?
guy. I just had a question because I don't know how all of this works with being so green into hockey. Would there be a situation where he would be viable going down to Coachella for a stint just to get reps in, and then you have like Coco come up as the backup or something like that? Or is it just ridiculous to have someone who's making 6 mil head down to the affiliate team to get time in?
I've seen it floated. I don't know if you know, Heather, on the actual technicality. I've seen it floated that he should do that.
Yeah.
I think the way you could justify it is that he is kind of returning from an injury.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, obviously it's not ideal, but it's also not ideal to pay 6 mil to absolutely get rung up by a bottom feeder in the league. Absolutely have him sell your game. Pay 6 mil to sell your game.
I don't know the technicalities on it, but I at this point in the season and where we are, I'm almost like we've talked about it, but bring up the young guys. So like having Nicholas Coco come up and play would actually be really great. I think also like a good confidence booster for him. And he's playing really well. But again, it is not great to have a $6 million NHLer down in the AHL. Like that part sucks about it, but maybe it would be good for him. Maybe something there would click differently for him, or just, maybe it would light a fire, or just, I don't know, it clear his head or something. Because apparently there's something going on there that we don't know or can't see. But yeah, I don't know how that would work, but I'm for it if it means more than Philip Grubauer going down, if it means somebody like Coco coming up and maybe getting a game or something.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to completely do that yet just because of the 20% playoff odds on Money Puck. I'd say like in a couple weeks, if we see those odds at like 10 or lower, scratch Grew, like do whatever and bring him up. Yeah, because this would be perfect, like low stakes hockey. We have like a super good opportunity to bring him up here, like beginning mid-January and just have him play for a couple months. That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
All right, and that brings us to game 25 versus the same opponent, the San Jose Sharks, in which we lost the game 4-2. Positive news, get ready for it. It will come and go very quick. Vince Dunn was in the game. Woohoo! Let's go, gang. Woohoo! Vince Dunn played in this one. He is back with Adam Larson. Good pairing. Alexiak and Borgen played together, and Evans and Montour played together. Um, First bad news of the night, Chandler Stevenson was out with illness. Mitchell Stevens, Heather's guy. Don't know much about that guy. He slotted in. Good news again. This was Ty Cartier's 100th NHL game. The first goal of the game did not come until 16:54 of the first period when Mario Ferraro sent a wrist shot off Will Borgen's backside to get the puck past the cord. Not the first time this season that Borgie's caboose worked against us. The Sharks the Sharks continued their offensive onslaught through the second period with three more goals from Kunin, Ceci, and Smith. His third straight game with a goal. The Kraken finally got on the board midway through the second with a goal from Jaden Schwartz. Jared McCann scored his 10th goal of the season. Holy, by the way, double digits. With 7.6 seconds left, it appeared that Matty Beniers, the struggler, scored a goal to make it 4-3. But after a review, this was determined to be goaltender interference with Yanni Gord, the second time that Yanni has been a little too close to the crease in recent memory. But hey, goaltender interference appears to still be some nebulous concept that we'll never understand. The end result was the Sharks with 4 and the Kraken with 2. Joey Decord made 19 saves. Side note, this was inaugural season Kraken Alexander Wenberg's first game back in Seattle after being traded to the Rangers last season. He got a great tribute during the game and had a great response from the crowd. In just shy of 3 complete seasons with the Kraken, he recorded 33 goals and 67 assists for a nice, clean total of 100 points with the S on his chest. All right, and now I also kind of want to tie this back to the last game against the Sharks because now I've seen another narrative, new narrative unlocked on Twitter. Let's go. New narrative. And the narrative is that, hey, Joey also played bad. And it's the defense selling out. The defense is selling out both goalies. And there's been 17 goals allowed in the last 4 games. I don't even know what they're saying anymore, okay? Listen, Joey Decord had 3.65 expected goals against. That means he allowed 0.35 goals above expected. In what multiverse, in what universe, in what the greatest measure of distance you could possibly conceive of, how does it make sense that you could say that they were comparable games? One had 5 goals allowed over expected. The other had 0.35 goals allowed over expected. These are worlds apart. One played like an ECHL goalie. That's Grubauer, by the way. The other played like a normal NHL goalie. That's the cord. This is worlds apart. Should never be brought up. And yeah, let's ditch this narrative, guys. Grubauer had an absolutely atrocious game. It was one game. Yeah, it was one game. He can bounce back. It's not a big deal. But let's call it what it is. Like Grubauer had like the worst game ever. That's what it was. Decord had like a middle of the road game. That's what these 2 games were. All right, what do you guys think?
I wasn't able to watch a whole lot of this game. I had some things going on, so what I was able to watch, I just watched on my phone. And really, I feel that is just the absolute best case scenario for watching a game such as that. I was really happy to see Vince Dunn back in the game. I'm just going to take that as my silver lining and run away with it. There was one moment, I think it was like in the first period, there was a little scuffle right in front of both benches, and he was right in the middle of it, getting headlocked and pulled around. I'm just like, oh no, my sweet baby boy, please don't hurt him. I'm scared right now. I still want him in bubble wrap. I think he came back too soon, but as far as I know, I haven't read anything that he got jostled around or messed up. So Vince Dunn is back. I'm happy that Vince Dunn is back, and that's the horse that I'm riding out on.
Speaking of Winston being back and playing with Lars, there was this it was the first intermission interview with Lars, and Piper asked him about how it felt to have Dunn back, and Lars had like this really big grin that he like had for just a moment before he stifled it because he's Lars. But it was super cute because they do really have great chemistry and they've played together for so long. So that was a highlight for me. But Dunn actually did play really well coming back in. I was worried about it being a little bit clunky just because, he hasn't really played and he hasn't had a ton of practice, but he did have 26 minutes of ice time. So that's a ton. That was the most that he's played this season on any game. So lots and lots of time on the ice. And he was back on the power play. And interesting of the power play, by the way, we had two defensemen on the power play, which we have not done this season. So it was actually him and Montour both. Not that it made a difference that night, but it was an interesting, difference anyway. The other thing too, I'll talk about Mitchell Stevens just for a second, since apparently he's my guy. All the Coachella guys are my guys, but since Chandler Stevenson was out with an illness, that also like shook up the lines, right? So I think part of the problem too that night was getting the team to vibe overall was tough, and that's been kind of tough. So then adding new people in was just made it exponentially so. But Mitchell Stevens actually did look good. He was on the fourth line and he generated a lot of energy. So I liked that. That's new blood coming in. He's not young, but new guy coming in and like making some good energy. But otherwise, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad games. Second in a row that just I want to forget forever. So that is that. And now it's time for Desert Dialogues, where the Coachella Valley Firebirds played 3 games this week. So the first game was on Tuesday, November 26th against the Tucson Roadrunners. It was an 8-2 win. So this one was actually happening when we were recording last time. And by the time we were finished recording, the Firebirds were up 5-2. So 3 more goals for them, none for the Roadrunners by that point. So I love that. This game was interesting because the Firebirds saw former Kraken Kyler Yamamoto. He's actually at the AHL level, so he's playing for the Roadrunners. The Roadrunners opened up scoring early in the first, then scored a power play goal, so Coachella was down by 2. But it took just about 4 minutes for the Firebirds to net 3 goals. 4 minutes, 3 goals, and they took the lead. So these goals were by Logan Morrison, Captain Max McCormick, and Nick Billiard, and that's his first with Coachella. So great night for him. 7 minutes into the second, Yanni Newman extended the Firebird lead 4-2. And then my guy, Mitchell Stevens, he had not been called up yet, parked net front to redirect the puck from Brilliard to get his first goal with Coachella as well. Firebirds were able to score 3 more goals in the third, and that brought us the final score of 8-2. 2 of those goals, just going to say, they were Ryan Winterton. And the other one was from Jager Furcus. So this was just a wild game, and it had a ton of record performances for several Coachella players. Luke Henman had a 3-point game. That's the first of his career ever. He's actually been having a really great season. He's our first ever drafted Kraken, so I always have like a really sweet spot for him. Also having a 3-point game was Ryan Winterton. He had 2 goals and an assist. Rouillard had a 4-point game. He had 1 goal and 3 assists, and he became the second Firebird player to do so this season. Ryan Winterton was the first. And Billy Ottavainen had a +5 rating in the game, and he's the first Firebird ever to have a +5 rating. Brouillard, Henman, and McCormick all had +4 ratings on the game. So this was just a really nice performance by the whole team. It extended Coachella's point streak to 8 games, and it was a win for Stetska, which we love to see, and put Coachella in second place in the Pacific Division.
And then they rolled it right back the next day against the Roadrunners once again. This game, unfortunately, was a 4-3 overtime loss. Tucson's assistant captain, Andrew Aguazino, scored all 4 of their goals. That's a pretty wild stat to see, that he just led the entire offensive output. About 2.5 minutes in, Yanni Neiman had a great breakaway chance, but he was unable to hit the back of the net. Cale Fleury was then called for cross-checking. John Hayden and Mitchell Stevens, Heather's guy, flew down the ice on a 2-on-1. Hayes passed off the puck to Stevens at the last possible moment, and his one-timer gave a shorthanded goal and gave Coachella the 1-0 lead. But then Tucson was absolutely relentless, probably because they were still reeling from that awful loss the night before. They had a fire lit under them. And with 51 seconds left in the first, the Roadrunners tied the game with a 2-on-1 that just slipped past the glove side of Nicholas Coco. The Roadrunners only took about 4 minutes to pull ahead 2-1 in the second period. But less than 4 minutes later, Logan Morrison was able to score after a 2-on-1 rush with John Hayden to tie the game back up. And this is why the AHL is so wild and fun to watch. At this point, about halfway through the second, there had only been a combined total of 3 shots on goal. Yes, that's right. There are 2 goals on 3 shots. And it was a shorthanded goal kind of night. Tucson, down a man on the ice, was able to pull ahead 3-2, and they got down the ice with no defense in sight and easily got the puck past Coco. Roadrunners fans were still celebrating when Stevens scored his second of the night. This was with less than a minute left in the second, and that tied the game at 3-3. The third period found Coachella with a 5-on-3 advantage, but they couldn't convert on that power play, and both teams had a lot of great looks in the third. Shots were 10-10, but this was another game that went to overtime. Overtime definitely favored the Roadrunners that night, with their first look coming at just 133 into overtime. After Captain Max McCormick had his wrist shot denied by their goalie, Tucson went on a 2-on-1, and as we mentioned before, Agazino just slammed the puck home for the win. But with this overtime loss, even though it was a loss for the Firebirds, they still extend their point streak to 9 games. And this was a good performance, but an unfortunate loss for Coco, who is now 6-0-1 on the season. 6-0-1. That sounds like a familiar stat, doesn't it?
That sounds like our streaming stat.
Interesting. Maybe we'll call back to that later.
On Saturday the 30th, the Coachella Valley Firebirds played against the Texas Stars, and there were some more familiar faces in this game on the other side. Cameron Hughes and Cole Lind, both former Firebirds, are now at the Texas Stars. Also, the Firebirds wore their official third jersey, the Red Alert jersey, which is just absolutely gorgeous. It has some more of those icy blue accents to call back to the Kraken. And then they have the alternate logo on the front of the palm tree. So these are they're really pretty. John Hayden kicked off scoring at 5:52 into the game. It was an absolute snipe. This is one I would actually suggest going back to the Coachella Twitter account and just check it out because it was beautiful. The Firebirds held on to that 1-0 lead going into the first intermission, and then it was a fairly back and forth game in the second period. It was scoreless until the 11-minute mark when Ben Myers made it 2-0 for the Firebirds. This was a shot that had some heat on it. He actually went from the right face-off circle while he was still in motion, and I'm still not 100% sure how he both got the shot off and it went in, but we will take it. The Stars found the answer goal less than 2 minutes later to bring the score within 1. And as the second period was winding down, the Stars tied it up, just making Stezka slide post to post to beat him as they came around the back of the net. The third period was another more of the same back and forth defensive style game like the second. And then with just a minute and 28 seconds remaining in regulation, the Stars took the lead, causing the Firebirds to pull Stezka to try to even it up, which they were actually able to do less than a minute later when the Firebirds drew the Stars goalie too far forward in the blue paint. Captain Max elevated the puck up and over the defender who was trying to bail out his goalie, and he found the back of the net to send this game to overtime. The 5 minutes of overtime was exciting and relentless, so much back and forth. These are two great defensive teams when they're in this position. But neither goalie was willing to give up any goals. So it was another shootout for the Firebirds, and there was only one shootout goal scored, not by us. Unfortunately, the Stars just beat Stezka on the low blocker side to secure the win. But again, even with the loss, the Firebirds still got a point, and they extend their streak to 10 games with this one. So we love what the Firebirds are doing. They are not giving up, and these points are still adding up. If you want to watch the Firebirds this week, they play on Tuesday, December 3rd against the Henderson Silver Knights. They play on Thursday, December 5th against the Texas Stars again, on Saturday, December 7th against the San Jose Barracuda, and then again on Sunday, December 8th against the Barracudas once again.
And just doing our check-in on who the top Firebirds are as of right now, Ryan Winterton, actually Heather's guy, even despite being up with the Kraken, is still leading the team with 15 points in the 16 games he's played. But close behind, we have Edward Chalet, who has 12 points in his 15 games. Max Lajoie has 12 points in 18 games he's played. And then we have a three-way tie next, all with 11 points. Max McCormick in 11 games, Jagger Firkus in 17 games, and Cale Fleury in 14 games.
And Coachella is currently fourth in the Pacific Division, and the division's really tight. So these points that they're getting from OT are they're really starting to add up. They're sitting at 23 points behind the Barracuda and the Eagles, both with 24 points, and the Wranglers are sitting at 29 points. Since they play the Barracuda twice this week, that's really a chance to make up some ground. But definitely check out the Firebirds if you haven't. It's fun to watch the younger players, and it's really fun to see who might be called up, like Mitchell Stevens.
So I know it's hypothetically said before, can we send Groot down to the Firebirds? Can we just do like a full team swap and just have all of the Coachella guys come up and play a game just to see how scrappy they get and maybe they just go absolutely insane?
Yes, please.
And to close out, that's going to take us to the sound table. Our weekly recap of all things hockey outside of the Kraken organization. Starting with sound table topic number one. Sound the alarm because we have a goalie goal alert, though this is not exactly the one that you would hope to see. In a game against the Lightning on Wednesday night, Washington Capitals goaltender Charlie Lindgren skated out to play the puck coming towards him. However, when he went to backhand the puck behind his own net, he misjudged where he was and put the puck into his own goal. While scoring a goal against your own net is always embarrassing, perhaps the icing on the cake with this one was that the goal was credited to Tampa Bay Lightning player Braden Point, who that goal counted as his hat trick goal for the night. So not only did you score on yourself, but then you were showered with hats and celebrations for the other team. Luckily, though, for Lindgren, the Capitals still went on to win the game, but just please, I beg you, do not show this highlight to Joey.
Yeah, Joey's getting his goalie goal, but not in that way.
The imagery is just crazy. Like he nets his own, puts it in his own net, and then just instantly hats are just flying as a direct consequence. Just so funny.
Sound table topic number two. Also on Wednesday night, the Montreal Canadiens played against the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus. Now, this was kind of like a weird universe stars aligning kind of stat thing that happened that I wanted to highlight. So, Cole Caulfield, who at the beginning of the season changed his number to 13 in honor of his good friend Johnny Gaudreau, had quite the interesting stat in this game. Caulfield, again wearing number 13, scored his 13th goal of the season in the 13th minute of the second period. And on that goal, the assist came from Slavkovsky, and it was his 13th point of the season. And I don't know who out there believes in higher powers and things like that. More power to you if you do. But I just thought that was a really strange, unexpected, unique, mind-blowing aligning of stats there.
Yeah, I can't imagine that happens very often.
Next up on the sound table, Wednesday was apparently a very fun news day in the NHL. In this closing minutes of the game between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, Toronto was playing with an empty net. When the puck was turned over and going the other way for Florida, center Carter Verhaeghe had the chance to score the final goal of the game, but instead he decided to pass it off to Sam Bennett. After the game, Verhaeghe was asked why he didn't take the shot and opted to pass instead, which he replied by saying, "I enjoy dogs and cats, so I thought I would dish it over there. It was nice." The reason behind this choice being that for every goal that Sam Bennett scores this season, an animal's adoption at the Humane Society of Broward County is sponsored through his partnership, Benny's Buddies. And Derek sent this one to me and said, I just know this one has to make it on the table. So this was a real good, feel good
Yeah.
moment.
Not only is it a feel good moment because of I didn't even know that it was backed by like the adoption thing, but just absolute mic drop moment. Bars, and also just reminded me of your setups to stuff on the pod, just something you would say, you know.
I like it. I'm a big it's my biggest donations are always to animal rescue, so I was delighted to see this. So good for him. I like Benny's buddies. Keep that in mind, but I love the reason for getting the puck over to Bennett.
And next up on the sound table, we always love a good milestone here at Beneath the Waves, and this week, Quinn Hughes recorded his 310th assist as a Vancouver Canuck. This ties him with Alex Edler. However, Quinn Hughes has done this in 538 fewer games. That sounds my brain can't fathom that.
Wild.
It's like 12 years worth of games.
Absolutely crazy. But there was another remarkable milestone at Vancouver. Canucks goaltender Kevin Lanikin became the first goalie in NHL history, not team history, not like conference history, any disclaimers you want to put there, NHL history to have a season start of 10-0-0 on the road. And lastly, up on the sound table, happy 40th birthday to Marc-Andre Fleury. The Minnesota Wild goaltender celebrated his 40th birthday on the 28th. At the time of this recording, he is tied with Roberto Luongo for the 13th oldest goalie since 2000. The oldest, Dominic Hasek, my original favorite player, who played his last game at the age of 43 years and 78 days. So a big ol' happy birthday to Flower. And with that, Heather, do you want to let us know what our grim week ahead looks like?
The Kraken are going on the road on an East Coast swing. So we are streaming Tuesday. Tuesday, they are in Carolina playing against the Hurricanes. So it is an away game. So definitely join us, hang out. We are going to bring all the good luck that we have to bring our streaming record up to 7-0-1. So please join us, keep us company, come hang out and chat. It will be a good time. On Thursday, they are at the New York Islanders. On Friday, they're at the New Jersey Devils, and then they are playing Sunday at the New York Rangers.
And Derek, do you want to let people know where they can find us and get us out of here?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube. Check out that store at bit.ly/BTW store. And please drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice. If you are looking for us, I'm going to give a little military send-off to the Kraken here because they are toast. They're riding off into the burial at sea in the casket. Throw them off and get your trumpet out and go, BTW, SCA, SCA, SCA. Okay, we're done. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day. And goodbye. Love you.
Later, everybody.
Bye.
We going beneath the waves. Going.